On this edition, I'm going to talk about my personal perspective on WMMA and also the Invicta Fighting Championship. Obviously, the next card is obviously taking place tonight. So, my thoughts on WMMA. And this is a sport that is starting to gain a lot of momentum, and there's a lot of support surrounding the sport, and most definitely should be. However, it's also receiving quite a bit of ridicule. And personally, I don't understand it because I'm going to go flat out and say is that those people that ridicule or hate on the sport itself, you don't have really a legitimate reason. And I'd love to hear a legitimate reason. I mean, I've heard and I've seen quite a few things, but none of them seem to add up. I think the only one I've seen is that you don't like seeing women beat up on each other. That's fine. Don't watch it. That's very simple. Okay? But to hate on a sport that is gaining as much momentum and the women are going out there and working just as hard as male mixed martial artists are, I personally don't see it. And people saying that, oh, well, women fighting isn't as entertaining as men fighting, that's absolutely crazy. Let's not forget, this is actually very recent. UFC 149 took place last week. That was an absolutely terrible card. There are a lot of boring fights. There are plenty of boring fights. So to say that women's mixed martial arts isn't as entertaining as men like MMA itself, that's absolutely foolish. Is that doesn't matter what sport it is. You got football, basketball, whatever it is. There are boring games everywhere. There are boring fights. Not every fight, not every game is going to be the most entertaining thing. That should not sway you away from the sport. Obviously, when it comes down to watching a sport itself, it's entertainment value. But along with being a fan, you have to understand that there are good games, there's bad games, there's good fights, there's bad fights. That's how it works. Okay, but I don't think the sex of a fighter changes that. Okay, but that's something that fans need to understand is that's what comes with the territory. Okay, that's what comes with the territory, that there are boring fights. There are outstanding fights. But the sex of the fighter doesn't change that. Okay, that's something people need to understand. So put UFC 149 in the back of your mind. I mean, go back and look. There's plenty of fights that have male fighters that have been absolutely horrendous. That doesn't make them bad fighters. It just makes the fight itself and the matchup not the best. And it's something that you'll forget, but it doesn't make the sport any worse. Doesn't make the sport any worse. So my point that I want to make for WMMA is the fact that these women go in there and train and compete at the highest level. And they do deserve nothing but your respect. I don't think that changes anything, the sex of a fighter. They get locked in the cage, they go and they put it all on the line, they do it to the best of their ability. They train for months upon months, they cut the weight, they do it just like the male fighters do. It does not change anything. Sport's very much the same. So my best advice I could give you, I'm not here to change anybody's perspective. That's not my goal here. This is my perspective. Okay, but I'm not here to change that. But if you don't have to watch WMMA. You don't. Okay, it's very simple. If you're not a fan of it, don't watch it. Okay, but if you're not going to watch it, don't sit back and start sounding off about how terrible the sport is because quite frankly, you don't have a perspective on the sport because you don't watch it. Okay, it's very easy to sit back and shoot off, constant ridicule and hate for a sport from the outside looking in. But your perspective is not too good if you're doing it from the outside looking in. Okay, so that's the best advice I give you. Don't like it, don't watch it. If you're not going to watch it, don't hate on it. Okay, that's the best way I could do it. Because you know what? Quite frankly, us as mixed martial arts fans, okay, we've been going through the same ridicule. I live in the state of New York. I have plenty of people that tell me that MMA is a gross, disgusting sport, and those guys, it's human cockfighting. I deal with this constant ridicule time and time again. I say to people, have you watched? Well, no, I haven't, but if you see it, well, then you don't watch. You haven't watched it, then how could you sit here and tell me about how terrible it is? You have not experienced it, you don't have a perspective on it. So you can't go and sound off on a sport that you, quite frankly, don't know anything about. So that's the best way I could say going about it. Okay, I constantly face this in New York. I have a lot of friends who do watch it around here. I know a lot of people that I've faced plenty of ridicule being in the state of New York and saying how disgusting of a sport WMMA. I mean, MMA is people going and fighting. So that's my 2 cents on WMMA. Personally, I can't wait. I'm going to give it nothing but my 100% support. It's a sport that most definitely deserves its recognition and exposure. And there's a lot of people that are doing great things for this sport. These women deserve nothing but the respect. They work so hard and they train so hard year-round, and they do deserve your respect. And the best way to do it is by giving it its exposure and its recognition that it deserves. So be a supporter. So those are my 2 cents. I personally can't wait to see where this sport is in a couple of years. So now just my quick 2 cents on Invicta Fighting Championship. So the card is tonight. It's tonight at 7 o'clock. And if you are going to watch it, the stream, it's for free. Watch it on the Invicta FC site. If not, if you don't know where a link is, go to the underground. You can practically find anywhere. If you don't have a link, I'll send you one. So shoot me a tweet, shoot me whatever you want. I'll send you the link your way. But Invicta FC is another way of getting this sport of WMMA out there. And Shannon Knapp has done outstanding things. She's the CEO of Invicta FC. She is a hardworking woman. She knows the fight game very well. She is outstanding to the fans and the supporters. And I mean, even the people that don't support the sport itself. She is 100% professional, and she does everything so well. She treats her fighters well. She has done absolutely everything imaginable to make the sport of WMMA very mainstream and to become a popular sport. So Invicta FC, it's the second installment. There was already a card. You should definitely tune and watch it. I mean, tonight is going to make people are going to become a lot more fans of WMMA, and who knows, it could also turn a couple of people away, but tune in tonight. If you're someone who hasn't seen the fights, tune in and watch. I watched the first one. Fights were awesome. The fights are going to be awesome tonight. It's a stacked card. So definitely tune in. If you're not following Shannon Knapp, go ahead and do so on Twitter. She's an outstanding woman, and all the fighters fighting on the card tonight it's going to be awesome. So those are my 2 cents on WMMA and Invicta FC. Definitely tune in and watch the fights tonight. Find the links on the internet. Fights are at 7 o'clock tonight. So that's why for this edition. It's Kyle Delaney signing off. I'm out of here.